What's up, everybody? Just making sure everything is good on the live aspect of things right now. Um, Gonna go in and change some things around, but appreciate everybody coming in here for this impromptu live to talk about Micah Hudson. So let me get this situated real quick. Send out the link on Twitter as well. Like the video if you haven't already, and then we'll get this thing started here in just a second. Just do a couple things here. All right, gonna start sharing it real quick. Like the video if you haven't already, and we'll start talking about Micah Hudson stuff here in just a second. It's a lot easier when you have a couple people helping you out on this front. Don't have that quite yet, but we're on our way here at the Back to 12 podcast. We're on our way for sure. All right, yo, let's get this thing started. I got to keep another tab open too to see what y'all are commenting. Justin, man, it's been a great handful of days for Tech fans. It's a good day, RC. That from Nathan. Rainey says yes, it has. What about the Jones AT&T field from old Texas Tech, man? I bet it. And then Jason said, I bet it's been a busy couple of weeks for you. Yeah, with basketball and recruiting and stuff. By no means am I the go-to guy for that. I will never admit that. There are some great people in the tech space that do recruiting. I definitely try my best to do it. But when it's all said and done, you keep tabs on it and everything like that. But I want to talk about this because the Micah Hudson aspect of this, because I don't want to get too far ahead of our skis real quick on this front. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination this recruitment is quote unquote done. There are some circumstances regarding this and everything that I think people need to know. Hudson and by the way, this was all from this report. I want to make sure we give it to the right person and the right entity. It was from Per Inside Texas. They were the ones that broke this news that five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson will skip his official visit to Texas this weekend. Now, this from Inside Texas as well. Hudson was originally set to see Texas A&M on Thursday before competing in the state 7-on-7 tournament in College Station, along with his Lake Belton teammates. He was then scheduled to leave Aggieland for his Longhorn official visit. However, that is no longer the case. This per Inside Texas. Texas was able to host Hudson last week before he continued his Texas Tech official visit. Texas Tech is the leader in the On3 recruiting prediction machine with a 64.3% chance to land the nation's number 2 player. Texas trails with 30.9% chance. That according to Inside Texas, their on3.com regards on that. Listen, I think when it comes down to it, and we'll probably keep this live for about 30 minutes. So everybody, tell your friends, go like the video, share it on social media. I just tweeted about it. I think when it's all said and done, right? Like, listen, this is big for Tech in the sense that, hey, he's not taking that official visit. to Texas Tech or to Texas, excuse me. But in the end, like, hey, this is still a recruitment. And let's just say play the hypothetical game here. All right. Let's say he does commit to Texas Tech, right? Let's say this, right? As a hypothetical right now. You still got to get him and keep him until National Signing Day, right? Like just because he commits to Texas Tech in this hypothetical situation tomorrow does not mean that he's going to be a Texas Tech Red Raider, right? Like Red Raider. You got to actually sign the guy, right? And I'm not trying to pour, cold water on this situation because trust me, that's far from it. I'm just trying to bring the other side of this to the argument because, listen, I'm just as excited as you guys are. Texas Tech is firmly in the mix for one of the biggest recruits in program history, right? Well, let me rephrase that. That's just wrong what I just said there. The biggest recruit in program history. Okay, that's what Micah Hudson would be. And the fact that Joey McGuire could potentially get this in crew in the first 2 years of him being on campus just shows you what kind of relationships. And I know that that word from the outside is probably looking at, a cheesy type situation for Texas Tech. But I think when it comes down to it, like that's really what this is. I think people, look at the recruiting aspect of things and say, hey, like, oh, this guy's committing to blank university or whatnot. Really, that's not the case. Guys commit to coaches. They commit to guys that they built relationships with. And I think it's a testament to what is going on with Texas Tech. And Frank is right here. Frank Morgan says, as much as y'all want to make this about him coming to Tech, he's skipping Texas Tech visit because he's playing a 7-on-7 tournament. Frank, that's 100% true. But he's still skipping the visit. And by no means, go listen to what I said at the beginning of this. This does not mean Micah Hudson is committing right now to Texas Tech. That does not mean that. But it's still a solid step for the Red Raiders in terms of you just had a great weekend, right? You just had a great weekend with multiple recruits, including Micah Hudson on campus, right? But also now there's a little bit more time where he doesn't go to Texas. I'm sure he's going to go on an official visit to Texas still. I'd be really surprised if he didn't. But now there's one more weekend that you don't have to worry about that. He goes to play a 7-on-7 with his school, Lake Belton, in College Station. But make no mistake about it. Texas Tech is firmly in the mix here, and they are the leaders for Micah Hudson. Like, I'm not the only one saying that. This is a national-wide type deal, right? You got the Athletics saying it. You've got On3 saying it. You've got Texas media members saying it, whether that's on Rivals, 24/7, whatever it may be, right? And by no means is this recruitment done by any stretch of the imagination. It's not. Don't get that twisted. Micah Hudson is not committed to Texas Tech. And even if he did, you still got to get to signing day, right? But for Texas Tech to be in this conversation, right, is legit, and not even in the conversation, firmly in the mix and having a legit chance to land a top 10 player in a recruiting class. Texas Tech just hasn't been here before in that regard. And it's a testament to Joey McGuire. It's a testament to James Blanchard. It's a testament to Brian Nance and everybody else on that coaching staff on the offensive side that have gotten Texas Tech to this position to where they could land a guy that, in my opinion, if he comes to Texas Tech, and let's say Jerand Bradley stays at Texas Tech, you automatically have the top wide receiver duo in the Big 12, and it's not a debate. It's not a debate. It's that quick, instantaneously. You got two guys in Hudson and Bradley, if Hudson does come to Texas Tech, that I think have top 2-round potential in terms of the NFL. Like, that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. Instant impact type guy. Obviously, the 5 stars, everybody knows that. Sometimes they flame out, right? But I don't think Micah Hudson's that guy. Every time I watch him, I just can't help but think of Jackson Smith and Jigba. I can't help but think of, Chris Olave. Can't help but think of Garrett Wilson. Can't help but think of, Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Like, I can't help but think about these guys in the NFL that were just absolute studs last season and that are young, impactful guys, right? I can't help but think about that. And I think that he would be an instant impact guy for Texas Tech. I don't think I'm saying anything that's rocket science or revolutionary there, right? But it is a big-ass deal that Texas Tech is this far along in the process. And when it comes down to it, it's going to be Texas Tech or UT. That's just what it's going to come down to, right? And first and foremost, I got to say this. he is a 5-star on the field, but also a 5-star level troll on social media, and I am all here for it. He is playing both fan bases, both Texas Tech and UT, beautifully. I love social media in times like this. This guy is doing absolutely awesome when it comes to that. But I'll answer any questions y'all have. Again, Micah Hudson has not committed to Texas Tech, but he will not go on his official visit to Texas this weekend. He will instead be playing a 7-on-7 tournament in Aggieland down in College Station with his Lake Belton teammates. But again, he had this plan for a while. He knew both of these things were going to happen. In order to skip that for Texas, he's got to feel good about what went down in Lubbock, right? Again, he hasn't officially committed anywhere, but in my opinion, this is a good sign for the Red Raiders. And it's also a good sign that a lot of people strongly in the know about this, with their finger on the pulse of this recruitment, like guys from UT and guys from Texas Tech, are all saying that Texas Tech has made a very serious push and are in very good position to possibly land the commitment of 5-star wide receiver Micah Hudson. Now, that being said, I want to answer some questions. And if y'all haven't already, be sure to like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. We're giving you daily videos on here. I forgot who said it earlier, but it has been a wild-ass couple of weeks for me, a couple of days, excuse me. When it's come down to it, it was Jason who said it. It's been a busy couple of weeks for you. It definitely has. Texas Tech men's basketball, that's been busy. And so is football, with 3 of the biggest recruiting weekends on their calendar, with last weekend really being the biggest one when it comes down to it. This from Nathan: if Micah does wind up at Tech, his jersey will instantly #1 in sales and will rival Mahomes in jersey sales. I don't know about that, man. On the Mahomes front, he's a GOAT, but man, it'd be a legend type move. And this perfectly goes into Ben the Jets question in terms of the trickle down effect. It'd be massive. Maybe not in this recruiting class, because Joey McGuire has mentioned it multiple times. This is going to kind of be a smaller class for Texas Tech, probably less than 20 guys, probably in that 18 range, maybe 17, 18, 19, something like that. I'd be pretty surprised if it got to 20 from McGuire's comments. But when it's all said and done, this will create a ripple effect that is massive going into not only this recruiting class in 2024, but continuing into 2025, 2026, because it proves to Texas Tech not only that their process is right in terms of the relationships they're building, but also to recruits that, hey, why is Micah Hudson going out there? It's not just because his dad went to Texas Tech. Don't get it twisted. That's not the only reason. Don't listen to UT fans on message boards saying, oh, the only reason he's considering Texas Tech is because of his dad. That's not true at all. Is it a part of it? Yeah, I think you'd be crazy not to say that, but it's not the sole reason, okay? Micah Hudson is considering going to Texas Tech at a high level because of the relationships with James Blanchard, with Brian Nance, with multiple guys, Joey McGuire. He has a great relationship with Bradley on the team, right? Like, there's multiple reasons why he's considering Texas Tech. So for me, I think when you look at it, again, he has not officially committed. He's just skipping his official visit to Texas. And I think it's nothing short of a positive for Texas Tech. It's definitely not a negative. And I think it's something, too, that you're seeing a lot more national media talking about this, and a lot more guys that cover both Texas Tech, like myself and others, and Texas, talking about this and catching a lot of rumors where there's a lot of smoke in terms of both sides saying the same thing in terms of the steam picking up for Texas Tech potentially landing that commitment of Micah Hudson. All right, this from Robert as well. Reminds me of when we could have had Crabtree and Julio Jones on the same roster back in the day. Yeah, I think people forget about Julio Jones potentially coming to Texas Tech. I mean, it was a long shot, to be honest with everybody, but it was possible, you know? And again, I want to say this too, like, I know I keep saying if, like, I'm doing that on purpose because, again, like, you got to be smart about these kind of things. I'm not trying to feed y'all any inaccurate information or anything like that. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to me either. This is still a sizable if, but I do think it is a positive for Texas Tech that he's not going on that official visit this weekend when he knew that his Lake Belton team was going to be in this 7-on-7 event, and he had already previously scheduled that official visit. It has to say that the visit to Texas Tech this past weekend went pretty damn well, right? and you're seeing it, and you don't want to read too much into social media, but he's a 5-star troll at it, and I love it both ways. And he's playing both sides of the fence here, and I'm all about it if you're Micah Hudson. But it's a big deal that Texas Tech is in the mix right now and firmly in the mix, and a lot of people are talking about this on a national level, and more importantly, guys that cover Texas saying that, hey, we're hearing that Texas Tech has a firm, hold in terms of confidence level and everything in terms of, hey, they think they can land Micah Hudson, and obviously they do, but they're not going to report that in terms of just to say it, right? This from Nathan as well. If Micah and the rest of the silent commits do commit, how many recruits would we have left to fill the 18 possible spots? Does this mean someone like Poe would be passed on if that puts us at 8? No, they would take Poe. Yeah, no, if they're at 18 and Poe wants to come to Texas Tech, they're going to take that. By the way, Casey Poe is set to announce his I believe he announced his date to commit, like he's making his announcement. I believe it's July 12th, maybe July 11th, but in that range. So there's a lot of big-time schools going after him. Texas Tech is in the mix. You got Oklahoma. No, he really likes Norman quite a bit. Alabama going after him as well. Texas Tech is in the mix, but we'll see how that recruitment goes. This from Sam. Do you think he could potentially visit UT during the season? I don't know if during the season, but you got to remember, he doesn't live too far away from Austin. So it wouldn't shock me if he just takes an official visit. Like I firmly believe that he will take an official visit to Texas at some point, right? And again, even if he does commit to Texas Tech, guys, that does not solidify that he's going to be in the scarlet and black. You got to get to signing day. You got to make sure he signs that NLI, right? Like that national letter of intent. Once he signs that national letter of intent, all right, you can breathe a little bit, but we're a long ways from that. And to be honest with you, covering this a little bit in terms of Micah and everything, like Mike has been first and foremost just a joy to cover. He's freaking hilarious on Twitter, and he's just super smart when it comes to his interviews. But like, you got to go through this whole process. He's trying to be methodical about this, and rightfully so. He's a guy that's talented enough to be a first-round NFL wide receiver, right? Like, this is not a guy that's, hey, like, I got to go into college and I got to prove something. Now, obviously, he does want to prove something, but the talent's there. But he's going to try and be an NFL-type player. He's an instant impact guy right away. So he's being methodical about this whole process. And to answer your question, Sam, like, yeah, I think that he could have an official visit to UT. During the season, I'm not sure that'd be possible just because he seems like the kind of guy that would be focused on the success of his team at that moment. But it would not shock me if we hear about an official visit to Texas later on in this whole process. But again, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you have to feel good about this, right? Like, again, he's known about this 7-on-7 event down in College Station for a while now, and he still had an official visit scheduled to UT. He's skipping that, instead playing in the 7-on-7 the weekend after he went to Texas Tech, and national media and local media are saying great things about Texas Tech. And oh, by the way, Micah Hudson is also, liking all these things on Twitter and changing his profile picture and whatnot. And again, social media is not the end all be all when it comes to a decision, right? Like, you can read way too much into social media, but there is something there in this, right? Like, this is a guy that you're seeing liking a bunch of Texas Tech stuff. He's commenting, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's that as well. This from Jason. I think Barron has helped in the recruiting process as well. Yeah, absolutely. There was, forget who it was. Maybe it was Jeff Ketchum from UT. I don't know. I really don't pay attention much to UT stuff in terms of their recruiting and everything. But I think Jeff Ketchum was the guy who said, hey, if Micah is serious about looking at the QB room, the one at Texas has, more star power and everything. And if he's strictly going by stars, he's right. But if we're going by more proven, it's Texas Tech. Obviously, Tyler Shuck has had more opportunities to be proven. And I don't think that Micah Hudson would ever play with Tyler Shuck just because, again, I think this is Tyler Shuck's last season at Texas Tech. But he would have a chance to play with Barron Morton. He would have a chance to play with King. He would have a chance to play with Hammond, right? Like, you've got three options at the quarterback room that at worst is Barron Morton, who is one of the highest rated recruits in Texas Tech history and has proven he can win in the Big 12, right? Like, it's going to be interesting. And I think, Barron Morton is a big piece in this. You're looking forward. Micah is looking at these things like this is a business decision for him, and rightfully so. But yes, yeah, Barron has reported to have worked with Micah. That is true. Nathan, hypothetical. If Micah doesn't come to Tech, does the coaching staff look at signing another wide receiver, or does the four-star who committed the other day solidify the wide receiver class and they add another position? So you're talking about Tyson Turner there in terms of the other wide receiver that Texas Tech landed a couple days ago. I actually talked about him in a previous video and, well, had a Micah Hudson update on there, but that's a little outdated now with this news. But yeah, no, I think they'd still potentially land another wide receiver. I know that they're going after a couple. We'll see how it goes. But I mean, this is obvious. I mean, Micah Hudson's the number one priority for Texas Tech. I don't think that that's shocking by any stretch of the imagination. But if Micah in this hypothetical doesn't commit to Texas Tech, I definitely could see them adding another wide receiver in this class when it comes down to it. But the priority is on Micah. And by every account and everybody I talk to that knows the situation and everything, I mean, they hit it out of the park this weekend, did Texas Tech, when it came to the recruiting process of not only Micah, but look at what they did in terms of landing a guy like Tyson Turner, a highly coveted guy, a top 300 guy when it comes down to it in this class of 2024. You get Jacoby Williams, a guy that's versatile. He'll probably play both wide receiver in the slot and running back. He's going to be a versatile offensive weapon for Zach Kittley. And then you get a guy in Charles Anderson Jr., who's 6'7", 240. Probably when he gets on campus, going to be closer to 6'7", 265, 270, right? And he's going to be a problem during his time in West Texas as well. So they had a priority. It's Micah Hudson, obviously, but they also landed guys that can be impact players for Texas Tech down the line potentially as well. This from Sam, seems like Bradley's been putting in work recruiting too. Yeah, no, him and Micah are good friends. They've worked out a few times, and they're just good dudes. He was the guy that led his recruitment, according to Johnson over at 24 inside the Red Raiders, Jarrett Johnson. Over there, the 24/7 site for Texas Tech. He was the guy that reported that Jerron Bradley was the guy that I guess was the veteran, quote unquote, to lead the recruiting weekend for Micah Hudson. Makes sense. And again, I'll stand by it. If you land Micah Hudson and Jerron Bradley decides to come back to Texas Tech next season, in 2024, Texas Tech has the best duo of wide receivers in the Big 12, and it's not close. It is not close with Micah Hudson and Bradley. Can we talk about the new rules in college football? I'm actually going to save that for when Lyle's on the podcast. He has some interesting thoughts on that, so we'll save that. Nathan asked this: a big story in 2 years will be the battle for wide receiver 2 and Strong and Hammond. Yeah, why was I saying King? I was thinking of the wide receiver. That's on me. It's Strong and Hammond. Excuse me. But yeah, no, that you got next year, if Tyler Shuck decides to leave, right, you would have Baron Morton, Jake Strong, Will Hammond, all on campus, theoretically, right? Like if those guys came back, which would be huge for Texas Tech. And again, that's a testament to, first and foremost, Zach Kittley and Joey McGuire and the offense that Texas Tech runs and their talent evaluation when it comes to Hammond. I mean, he was didn't even have a star rating. He was unranked on every site. And now he competed in the Elite 11 and was an Elite 11 finalist and actually made the Elite 11. And, you know, he could potentially be a 5-star quarterback. Probably just a high 4-star when it's all said and done, but the potential's there. But yeah, this is big news when it comes to Micah Hudson. Again, this does not mean that he is dead set on committing to Texas Tech. It also doesn't mean that either. Micah Hudson and his family are the only people that know what his intentions are as of this moment. But it is big in the sense that he will not go on his official visit to Texas this week. Instead, he will go play in a 7-on-7 tournament down in College Station, with his Lake Belton teammates, right? He knew about this and also had the Texas official visit, skipping the Texas official visit to go to this 7-on-7 tournament a weekend after going out to Lubbock and having, by all accounts, a great official visit with the Red Raiders. You got Joey McGuire climbing a crane. I mean, my goodness, what else could you ask for right now? You got a top 20 class in the country in terms of the 2024 recruiting class cycle if you're the Red Raiders. And if you add Micah Hudson, I mean, it would easily be the greatest recruiting class in Texas Tech program history, easily, right? So I think really what it comes down to is this: to answer the question, where does that leave Texas Tech? And obviously that's in the title. It leaves them in a very good spot. And the reason being is this: I've talked about it a couple times already throughout this live, but when you have both UT and Texas Tech reporters saying virtually the same thing in terms of, hey, Texas Tech is getting, crystal ball predictions or future casts, or, hey, this went really, really well. And then you're seeing national reporters saying the same thing. And then Micah Hudson is skipping an official visit to Texas. And I'll say this too: I think Texas does probably get an official visit from Micah Hudson eventually, right? But not this weekend. But it's right after the Texas Tech one in terms of the official visit. And he's doing it to go play in a 7-on-7 tournament that he already knew about going into this, right? I think there's something to be said about that. And Texas Tech is in a very, very good spot to land potentially the highest rated recruit in program history, a top 10 player in the class of 2024, and the number 2 overall ranked wide receiver in the class of 2024. Listen, the dad ties help to Texas Tech, but don't get it twisted. This is because of guys like Joey McGuire. This is because of guys like James Blanchard, Brian Nance, Zach Kitley, guys like having Bradley on the team, guys like Tyler Shuck, Baron Morton, Will Hammond, right? Like, this is because of the foundation that Texas Tech laid last season, right? Like, simple and plain. That's what it comes down to. And I think when you look at everything that's going on for Texas Tech right now, shoot, man, there's not a lot of bad things to talk about. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy how the past 2 years have gone, simple and plain. But Texas Tech is firmly in the damn mix. I mean, to land Micah Hudson, who would have thought? Let's see here. This from Nathan: I like Matt Wells, but if Matt Wells is still our head coach, I don't think Micah comes to no shot. No shot. Matt Wells is a nice guy. Loved interacting with him when he was covering the team, or when I was covering the team and he was out there in Lubbock. Super nice guy. But there is no shot in hell that Micah Hudson is considering Texas Tech if Matt Wells is the head coach. No shot in hell. This from Tommy Gray: I'm ready for our next Crabtree. It ain't done yet, but Texas Tech is in a good spot. This from Mike Caprock: Texas will still part the orange to sign Micah. No doubt. No doubt. And again, I've said this already. This recruitment is not over. It's not. Like, even if Texas Tech does land the commitment of Micah Hudson, until he signs his national letter of intent, it's not over, people. Like, this is going to be one of those things where it goes down to the 11th hour at the 59th minute and 57 seconds, right? Like, regardless, right? And even if you flip it to the Texas side, let's say Texas lands the commitment of Micah Hudson, Texas Tech is going to be fighting until the 11th hour, the 59th minute and 57th second to land Micah Hudson and persuade him to flip to Texas Tech. It's going to go both ways here, right? This is not going to be over until that NLI on signing day is officially signed. Period. End of story. But if you're looking at what's currently going on right now in the recruitment process of Micah Hudson, listen, you have to be excited if you're a Texas Tech Red Raider fan, for the sheer fact of it feels like all the momentum's on your side, right? You just had a great official visit. He's posting a ton of stuff on social media, liking a ton of Texas Tech stuff. The national media and both sides, Texas Tech and UT's media, are saying great things that Micah Hudson has a great chance to land at Texas Tech. He's not going on the official visit for a 7-on-7 tournament that he already knew about when planning that official visit to Texas. And now he's skipping that said official visit. You have to like where you're at if you're Texas Tech. It's that simple. And this is obviously a huge, huge, huge deal when it comes to Texas Tech, because the trickle-down effect of recruiting would be enormous for Texas Tech if they land a guy like Micah Hudson, right? Obviously Texas has had great success at recruiting 5 stars in the past. I don't want to say Micah Hudson would be a drop in the bucket for them, but in terms of their historical prowess on the recruiting trail and landing 5 stars, like, hey, that would probably be the case. For Texas Tech, this would be a program-defining moment in changing of the guard in terms of Texas Tech is here to stay in this new Big 12, and they're going to be a power, right? And that's something that we didn't know what was going to happen when UT and OU announced that they were going to leave for the SEC. Who was going to take over that power role in the new Big 12? Was it going to be Kansas? Was it going to be TCU, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State? Who was it going to be? Well, Texas Tech's got a really damn good shot at it right now in football with the way things are going right now. And if you land Micah Hudson, that just furthers that momentum right now. As I can guarantee you this too. Texas Tech is going to be a lot of people's favorite picks to be that quote unquote dark horse to win the Big 12 this year, even though, hey, you got a bunch of guys coming back. I believe 16 starters coming back on both sides of the football combined. And now you're firmly in the mix for a guy like Micah Hudson, and probably in the lead as this current moment at the time we're having this live on the channel. And by the way, if you haven't already, like the damn video, hit that subscribe button. Giving you daily Texas Tech videos. The fiance may not like it, but we're here, boys. We're here, and ladies. She's laughing at me in the other room. For those that may not have heard that, but let me answer a couple more questions before the live ends here. Send them in. I'll answer all the questions that are there, and then we'll wrap this up here in the next 5-6 minutes. But again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. As again, 5-star wide receiver Micah Hudson to skip his official visit to Texas this weekend. Instead, will play on a 7-on-7 tournament down in College Station with his Lake Belton teammates a weekend after having his official visit to Texas Tech. And everyone say it's going well. That news was broken in terms of Micah Hudson skipping the official visit by Inside Texas. Let's answer some questions here, though, or answer some comments, I guess. Nathan, bet it comes out that UT offers Micah at least $4.5 million in NIL to get him to flip. If he commits to Tech, it's possible. I mean, but don't get it twisted. Like, Texas Tech is going to be in that NIL action too, right? Like, and Micah's obviously going to want some NIL action, but I think Micah is smart enough to realize that he's going to make the decisions that's best for him at that current moment, and that will help project him to get to the NFL, his ultimate goal, right? I mean, he's a smart dude. Just listen to his interviews. He's quick answer, to the point, direct, well-spoken. He's a really smart guy when it comes down to it. This from Tom TT Rex. Baron Morton is also one of the recruiters. Word is he's influencing Micah. Yeah, and rightfully so, because you would think next year when Micah Hudson, if he does commit to Texas Tech and does go to Texas Tech, Baron Morton would be the quarterback for him. So it makes a lot of sense on that regard. This from Jimmy Lee. We just need to keep showing support for Micah and wait for December 20th to the 22nd, 2023 NIL signing window to either celebrate or lick our wounds. Here's the thing, and maybe I'm crazy for this. Obviously, I want to see Texas Tech land Micah Hudson. There's no doubt about that. But even if they don't, right, the process in which this staff has gone about recruiting, this isn't going to be a one-time thing. Texas Tech is going to be in on a lot of guys that are impactful, immediate players that are ranked in that 5-star, high 4-star range for years to come, right? Like, this isn't going to be a one-hit wonder type deal, even if they don't land Micah Hudson. Now, if they land Micah Hudson, it's just going to accelerate it, right? Like, that's just common sense. It's just going to accelerate that process. But even if they don't, and again, Texas Tech looks to be in the driver's seat right now, albeit we know how recruiting works. Things can change drastically and in a hurry, right? They look to be in the driver's seat, and that is absolutely huge at this time for Texas Tech. I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, Micah Hudson to skip his official visit to Texas this weekend. Again, to skip his official visit to Texas this weekend. Per Inside Texas, reason being is because he's going to go play in a 7-on-7 tournament down in College Station with his Lake Belton teammates. This a weekend after he had a great official visit by every media outlet. Everybody that's in the know has said to Texas Tech, and multiple media outlets has said Texas Tech is in the driver's seat. It's a fun recruitment, to say the least, when it comes down to it. But don't get it twisted. Don't be listening to people on social media that aren't in the know. Texas Tech is firmly in the mix for Micah Hudson, and it would be a electric type time for the Red Raiders if they did indeed land 5-star wide receiver. I'm RC Maxfield, reminding you, if you want the latest breaking news when it comes to Texas Tech and the rumors as well, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.